So a couple of hours ago, I got back from the Avengers Age of Ultron, and after marinating for a few hours, I'm ready to do my review so that you can know objectively how this movie is, because as we all understand, I am the arbiter of all truth in the universe. How do I feel about the first Avengers film? We should probably start with that. Well, I've seen the first Avengers movie about 8 times, at least 8 times, and that's an unusual amount of repeat viewings for me. Usually, once is enough for me with most movies, sometimes twice. I have to really love a movie to watch it over and over and over and over and over again. I have to feel like it's almost goddamn perfect. And for what the Avengers is, yes, I think it is almost perfect. It's almost the perfect superhero movie. The Dark Knight would probably be the other one. Those two movies, to me, are the perfect examples of the genre on opposite ends of the spectrum. Batman being the gritty, dark take on the superhero, and the Avengers being the more lighthearted, adventurous take on being a superhero. You know, bad stuff can still happen, but they never lose sight of the fact that this is supposed to be incredible and awe-inspiring. You know, so as I said, every time I watch The Avengers, it just leaves me wanting more. And that's why I've revisited it so many times. You know, I want to see more of this. More of exactly this. And does The Avengers Age of Ultron deliver exactly what the first Avengers delivered us? No. It delivers about 80% of that. Throughout the film, I would say. I would say that pretty much everything in this movie is about 80% of what it was in the Avengers. The characters are about 80% as interesting. The story is about 80% as good. The dialogue is about 80% as good. The feeling you have watching it is about 80% as good. And that kind of bothers you, you know, because even though you're watching a movie that's pretty competently made and well written, and the spectacle is pretty nice in most parts, you're still just thinking, man, this is about 80% of where I want to be. Just bring me that other 20%. And it's there. There was a lot of reports that Joss Whedon was tired while making this movie, that, you know, he was running himself ragged, you know, he doesn't feel like he could do another one, he's burnt out. I would say after seeing this, I wouldn't say he's burnt out, but you can tell that the fires have dimmed, you know, because it seems like the only way that you get 80% less across the board is if the guy running the show just gives about 80% of a shit. And I know that you're probably getting sick of the repetition of the phrase 80%, but if you've seen the movie, I mean, I don't know, I think most people would agree with me, or at least a lot of them. It seems like everything is pretty good. It's just not quite as good as it was the first time around. And I don't really think it's just because it's tired. I think it's because the effort is only 80% as much there. Because like I said, I was hungry for more of the Avengers. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of this. That's why I'm only getting 80% the enjoyment. Because I'm not sick of it. I'm still very interested in this universe and this storyline that's being crafted, but I just wasn't delivered the goods quite as much as I was last time. So let's start with the plot of the movie, even though we already started with my 80% speech, but whatever. The plot of the movie, pretty simple for the most part. A lot of convolutions in subplots, but the main plot is pretty simple. Tony Stark and Bruce Banner team up to create Ultron, which is a security force that is supposed to defend the world, making the Avengers obsolete. But of course, Ultron, when he becomes self-aware, decides, why do I want to protect humanity? They're a bunch of cretins. I would rather destroy them and create my own race. And, you know, he's obsessed with evolution, and only the strong survive, and what the Earth really needs is a cleansing extinction event. Of course, this puts him at odds with the Avengers. They fight, and that's pretty much it, you know. And I don't think it's a spoiler alert to say the Avengers fucking win. So you're probably interested to know how your characters fare in this movie, what they get to do. Are they cool? Are they featured prominently? Are they downplayed too much? Are they hyped too much? How are the actors doing in their roles? Okay, so Captain America, he doesn't really do a whole lot of anything. He has some funny lines. There's some funny jokes bounce off him. There's a running joke about him being offended by profanity that actually kind of gets funnier as the movie goes along. The first time, the joke really didn't work for me, but as they kept a running thread with it, it kind of worked. I would say it did work, not just kind of. But really not a whole lot of story arc for Captain America. Chris Evans, I think, is the name of the guy that plays him. He does fine. He plays him just as well as he ever has. Thor doesn't really get to do much, kind of like Captain America. Not a lot happens in his storyline. He's just there for these events, lending his support at various times. There's a little bit of a side quest for him where he seeks out, he was given a vision by the Scarlet Witch at one point, and he decides he needs to figure out what it is, so he goes to some magic pool that's never explained, and comes to some sort of vague resolution as to what his dream meant. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So pretty much his only side story is kind of a wash, but it doesn't get a lot of screen time, so it's really not too distracting. Hulk is just as entertaining as he was in the first movie. Well, yeah, I would say he actually, of all the things that are 80%, I would say Hulk is still 100% as interesting to watch. Bruce Banner maybe is not as interesting to watch as he was in the first movie. He had that struggle going. In this movie, he has a sort of this very forced subplot where he and I keep thinking Scarlett Johansson. I'm trying to remember the name of the actual character, Black Widow or something like that. They have some sort of very forced romance, and it doesn't really work. The audience is kind of groaning every time it's given screen time, but once again, it really doesn't get very much screen time. It's kind of just this tacked-on subplot. It almost feels like there needed to be a Hulk movie that came out before the Avengers to kind of explain this romance that these two are having, make it seem a little bit more fleshed out and real. If you're going to do it at all, you have to commit to giving it more screen time than this if you really want it to work. And they just didn't give it enough screen time, but I'm kind of glad they didn't, because if they'd spent more screen time on that, it would have just been more of a subplot that nobody wanted. And it was clear that I'm not the only one that felt this way. I mean, I could just tell in the theater the sort of general attitude of like, I want to talk a little bit more about the Hulk, but let's talk about Black Widow since we brought her up. I think of her more as Natasha. I think of her more as Scarlett Johansson, but I guess it's Black Widow. I'm gonna be embarrassed if it's not Black Widow, because I'm not 100% on that. I think I'm about 80% sure that it's Black Widow. Doesn't really matter. Her character's fine. She's interesting. She's hot. She has some good lines. All the characters have good lines. There's lots of laughs in the movie in general. We'll get to that in a second, though, because I do want to talk about his writing in general. I feel like I used "in general" too much just now. Remind me not to say "in general" again in this review. The Hulk is great. There's the battle that happens between Tony Stark's super hulked out Iron Man suit, which you kind of wonder, like, why isn't he always in that suit if it's that powerful? But the battle that happens between the Hulk and that fucking mega suit, that is just as good as the trailers would have led you to believe. And probably, in and of itself, worth the price of admission, honestly. Great fight scene. If you love fight scenes, that one's great. Probably probably the best scene of the movie. I would say that I was getting more into that fight than I was the climax. I don't know why that fight wasn't part of the climax. I mean, I guess I can see narratively why they couldn't quite pull it off that way, but it kind of steals the show, honestly, in my opinion. Not only because it's the best action sequence in the movie, but also because it's the fucking funniest sequence in the movie. There's so much great dialogue in that scene, and that's probably the closest that movie comes to feeling like, wow, I'm back in this world that the last Avengers film created. That was the sequence where you really felt like, man, it's working. I actually thought when I was watching that scene, like, okay, now the movie's kicking into fucking high gear. But it kind of goes back to that coasting at 80% shit afterwards. What characters have I not talked about? I haven't talked about Hawkeye. Hawkeye is probably the character who gets the most development in this movie. I guess a lot of people didn't really feel like Hawkeye did anything cool or badass in the last Avengers movie, because I heard a lot of people say that. And it's even kind of addressed openly in this movie, like him questioning, do I even have a place on this team? And I think it's quite clear that he does, and he has a lot of interesting scenes. Like I said, he probably goes through the most development. We learn more about him than we do the other characters in this film. I mean, of course, those characters have developed backstories from previous films, and so does he to an extent. But he really gets a lot more development here, and you really start to... I like the character more after seeing this movie, so that's something else that was probably done a little better than 80%. I think I've gone through all the major Avengers. Let's see, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, Hawkeye, Black Widow. Okay, so let's get to some of the new Avengers then. We have Quicksilver, who's kind of the Marvel version of the Flash. He was done okay, but the real problem is that for a character that we've never met before, he gets very little development. You kind of wish that maybe instead of having a stupid romantic subplot between Black Widow and Bruce Banner, they could have maybe given a little bit more development to Quicksilver, or Scarlet Witch, or Vision. I don't know if it's Vision or the Vision, but whatever. Quicksilver, and another big problem I have is that this character was actually portrayed in the last X-Men movie as well, X-Men Days of Future Past, and the portrayal of him in that movie was so much better, so much more entertaining in pretty much every regard. The character was more interesting in that movie. The speedster scenes were more interesting in that movie. Seeing things from his perspective, he was very entertaining. Probably the most entertaining part of that X-Men film. But here, he definitely is not a show stealer. He's, fascinating enough, but he just kind of seems like here's a superhero, and he can run fast. That's what he does. He runs fast, and he has no personality, and that's him. Scarlet Witch, almost the same. Just kind of, she's got interesting powers, but no real character development. She just kind of comes across as, I'm a pretty girl with a dark backstory. Is that enough for you? And I have to say, no, not really. The Vision, better developed character than those two, which is kind of strange considering that he's actually born in the film. He actually is born with a better developed character than these human beings who supposedly have a history. He kind of has this naivete and this innocence about him, and it works. It's not something terribly original, but, I feel the connection with the character. He looks kind of silly, but not silly enough that you're snickering, just kind of maybe like, you might roll your eyes a little bit, but nothing that's going to make you, like, cringe in your seat or anything. Certainly nothing more cringeworthy than Captain America, and we all got used to him pretty fast, even to the point where he's had his own standalone movies that are pretty fucking solid, especially the Winter Soldier. So let me just conclude this by telling you some of the things that didn't work and some of the things that did work, maybe in no particular order. I don't know where my rambling ass is going to go with this, so just bear with me. As I said, the romance scenes between Bruce Banner and Black Widow do not work that well. There is kind of a touching moment at the end with the Hulk. It looks kind of silly too, but I think it also works as an emotional moment. If you're invested in these characters. You couldn't really get too invested in these characters from this film alone. I really feel like to enjoy this movie, you have to have seen the previous Avengers film, and it probably helps if you've seen the standalone movies of these characters as well. I don't think an uninitiated person would go into this movie and get a whole lot out of it simply because there's not a lot of character development within this movie itself. There's lots of snappy dialogue, and the snappy dialogue, by the way, works very well. It's still like 80% of what it was in the first one, but even 80% is still pretty goddamn funny. So many of the jokes work. Very few jokes do not work in this movie, and it works better as a comedy than a lot of comedies I've seen recently. All of the snappy dialogue works. It doesn't always get like a big hearty gut laugh, but you can audibly tell that people are amused. And the ability of these characters to make you laugh, to me, that sucks me into the story and makes me care more. Because I don't like it when... I usually don't like it when I'm watching a movie and all it wants to do is treat everything as if it's super serious and every conversation has to be super serious and super solemn. And I'm sorry, that's just not how fucking people talk. People, yeah, sure, we have solemn conversations, but usually when we have a solemn conversation, it's like... it's time to file your taxes or something like that. When people are just, struggling with their life and their problems and stuff, they argue and bicker and they, have little barbs at one another, and it's fun and it's engaging, and that's how people interact with one another. And you really miss that in so many films that try to have this very heavy atmosphere where everything is given this incredible weight and significance. And this movie doesn't try to do that, and neither did the first one, and thank fucking God, because it's just that heavy-handed bullshit in these superhero movies is just so tired for me. Chris Nolan did it well. The rest of the people who have tried it have all pretty much sucked. Although the new Daredevil series on Netflix, which I watched and enjoyed incredibly, did work with the heavy-handed stuff. But you know what? There were a lot of jokes in that! So it shows that even if you want to do some heavy-handed, weighty shit with superheroes, you can still have humor. You can still have jokes. Fuck, tell a goddamn joke every once in a while. Even fucking Citizen Kane has a few moments where you laugh. Jesus. So yeah, it does a lot of stuff very well. The villain, Ultron, I'm sure that I probably should have talked about him when I was talking about characters, but... whatever, I'll talk about him now. Ultron, really not the performance that I expected. I was shocked. Maybe not shocked, but I was surprised at the way that he was playing the character. I was surprised that Ultron was fucking funny. And you would think that that would detract from his ability to be menacing, but not really. He's still a pretty menacing villain. I don't know if he seems like he's of the proper scope to be an Avengers villain, but yeah, pretty good villain. They're just warming up still for the Infinity Wars, and maybe that's part of the problem with this movie, is that the first Avengers is this big event film where, all your favorite superheroes from the Marvel Universe are getting together and fucking being in their own movie. And it's like, cool, wow, yeah, these characters that I've been introduced to and have been developed in their own pictures are now in this team movie, and I'm going to see how they interact together and how that's going to be, and it's fucking interesting. And in this movie, it's still pretty fucking interesting. But the problem is that... it's not a big event movie. It's just it's just kind of this little bridge that's taking us towards the Infinity Wars movie, the big epic 2-part Avengers extravaganza where all sorts of heavy shit is probably going to go down. And it's going to be this gigantic fucking event where the Avengers are tested as they never have been before. But you can't do that right after the first movie, especially when there's more stuff to develop. And so this movie, it kind of suffers in a way from being just a bridge from one movie to the next. But for being a villain in a bridge movie that's not supposed to steal the show, you can't make Ultron as tough and imposing as you make Thanos, obviously. But he does a good job. I wish I would have seen more variety in the stuff he threw at the Avengers. It was just kind of like, here's some robots, 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 here's some robots. And it's the Avengers killing robots. And the Avengers killing robots is cool. But I mean, in the first movie, it was Loki, so he's a god, and it was the Chitauri, who were these aliens, and they had these weird they had ones on like gliders and shit. And then they had these giant fucking space monsters that were just flying around like, I don't know, giant fucking armored millipedes or something. They were pretty badass. In this, it's just like, we got Ultron, who's a robot, and then we got all of the other Ultrons who are also robots, and that's pretty much it. So not the same variety in enemies. Would have liked to see more stuff, like couldn't there have been like a giant Ultron, or Ultron creates like some robot wolves, or, some kind of crazy shit like that. I think that would have been cool to see more variety in that regard. But Ultron in general is just an interesting villain, and the thing that makes him interesting to me is he plays shit so casual. He's like, and he almost has an innocence to him as well. There's almost like a naivete to Ultron. And that's an interesting take on a villain who's trying to destroy the world, to make him almost naive, to make him almost seeing the world through innocent eyes, and in a way, there's an interesting thing they did where they kind of made his personality mirror Tony Stark's, and of course Tony Stark created him. And there's kind of this play on this father-son thing. It never really comes to a satisfying resolution, though. I won't give away what the resolution is, but, actually, there is no resolution to that plot line. There's just, this interesting dichotomy where, Ultron is like a dark mirror of Tony Stark, but nothing much comes of it. Another thing nothing much comes of is the fact that Tony Stark created Ultron in the first place. I think that like a lot of people, expected that when Tony Stark created Ultron, along with the help of Bruce Banner, that would be what kind of creates a schism in the team. But that's really not what creates a schism. There is a schism in the movie, but it's not because everyone's blaming Tony or Tony's blaming himself. In fact, Tony kind of is a douche about defending what he did. Yeah, I created Ultron and he might destroy the world, but I was trying to do the right thing. And, even later on in the movie, he kind of proves that he hasn't learned his lesson. He still thinks that it's worth the risk. He's still willing to meddle with forces that he can't possibly hope to control without even, taking any sort of precautions, just leaping headlong into it. It doesn't come to much, though. There really wasn't a very compelling reason to make Tony be the one to create Ultron, because no one seems to really care. There's a few, jokes where people kind of rib him about it, like, hey, you created Ultron, you fucking dick. If you destroyed the world, young man, I'll be very cross with you. It's just kind of like, is this really the reaction that they have? And instead they fight about other bullshit. That doesn't really seem as significant as, hey, one of the Avengers almost destroyed the fucking world by creating this thing that he really didn't know much about, because it was based on someone else's technology, and, and he just rushed into creating it, and he didn't tell anybody, and, it's just, you would figure they'd be a little bit more sore about that, but they're kind of fucking strangely forgiving. And he seems to be pretty forgiving of himself. There's not a scene where Tony Stark is like, what have I done? It's just, oh, well, I fucking created something that's going to kill the world, maybe. Let's fight it, And, and the fight scenes are great, and they're impressive, and the dialogue is great, and it's impressive, and the characters are still interesting and relatable, and they bounce off each other well. But there's not a lot of story arc for them in this movie. There's just too many characters for any one character to get enough time for proper development. with the exception of Hawkeye, and I think Tony got a little development. All the performances across the board were pretty solid, although I will say that, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. does seem like he's a little bit tired of playing the Iron Man role. You definitely sense less enthusiasm than normal. It's not to the point where you're like, come on, Tony. I mean, not Tony. Fuck. And it's not so bad that you're sitting there like, oh, Robert, what the fuck, dude? You're fucking botching this shit. Don't you care? It's more just like, he's kind of playing this performance, well, you guessed it, 80%, right? Everything across the board, 80 fucking percent. Out of 10, I would give the movie a 7.5. I would recommend it to anybody who enjoyed the first movie. I think you'll still enjoy this one. If you didn't enjoy the first movie, I think it's very unlikely that you'll find anything in this movie to change your mind. I'm the Amazing Atheist. Peace the fuck out. Oh, and stay tuned for a spoiler. If you don't want to have a spoiler, leave, because I'm about to have a spoiler for you and briefly discuss it. Alright, if you're not gone by now, you have only yourself to blame. Quicksilver fucking dies in this movie. What was the point of that? We're introducing this new character. We're killing this new character. Okay. Well, that was a waste of fucking time. I mean, did you really have to kill a character in this movie? Did you really feel like it's necessary? Like, someone's gotta die. No, I don't think anyone did. I think this movie would have been fine if every single character survived. I don't think there was any need to kill characters in this one. The next one, sure, kill off some characters. That's when you have the big dramatic weight. Like, a character died. But, killing a character we were just introduced to, and who you really didn't give a whole lot of development, and who, based on his role in the comics, probably deserves a bigger role in the Marvel Universe than, hey guys, I'm dead. So didn't really like that decision. I know I've spent more time complaining about the movie than praising it, which might lead you to the impression that I thought it was a bad movie. I don't. I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed myself about 80% as much. And that's equivalent to a 7.5. And will I see it again? Yeah, I'll probably watch it 2 or 3 times. I don't think it's going to be getting the 8 views that the last film got, but pretty solid. I know I've already pieced the fuck out, but I'll do it again anyway. For all of those who stayed tuned for the spoiler, peace the fuck out.